my dear students. Today we are going to be learning chapter 5, that is classes and objects. Let us see the basic concepts of object oriented programming. Though you are familiar within your C++, we have to once recollect this concept. Okay? So it is necessary to understand some of these concepts used extensively in object oriented programming. So object oriented programming ಅಂತ ಬಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣವೇ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಐಡಿಯಾ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ you should know about objects, classes, data abstraction and encapsulation. Okay? Also inheritance and polymorphism. Let us see what is an object. Object are the basic runtime entity in an object oriented system which is used to solve the real world problems. So ನಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದ ಹಾಗೆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ರನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಎಂಟಿಟೀಸ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ರನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಎಂಟಿಟೀಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ, ವಿ ಆರ್ ಸಾಲ್ವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ರಿಯಲ್ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ಸ್ ನ ನಾವು ಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. Objects are instances are nothing but variables of a class. What is an object? Objects are instance means variables of a class. Every object of a class has its own identity, attribute and behavior. So let us see, if you are using the object, for example I am treating this pen drive is an object, right? Or myself is an object. So it consists of object of a class has its own identity and its attributes and behavior. Let us see what is an identity. Identity refers to the name of the object. So as we know, what is this? This is a pen drive, right? So as we know, the identity means name of this object. What is the name of this object? Pen drive. Attribute refers to the property of object. So here it refers properties. What are the properties? Its color, its height, its width, its weight. Okay, height, weight and width. Got it? And behavior refers to the function of that object can perform. So then what is the usage of this object? What is the object is for? ಇದರ ಯೂಸೇಜ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ? ಇದೇನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಡೇಟಾ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಮಿಷನ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಫೈಲ್ಸ್ ಫೋಲ್ಡರ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ ಸ್ಟೋರೇಜ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಂ ಆಗಿ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟಾಪ್ ಟು ನನ್ನ ಡೇಟಾವನ್ನು ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದೇ ಇದರ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್, ರೈಟ್? ಇದರ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಆರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್. ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್. Okay, let us see the attribute and behavior together define the object. So if you are taking the object means the attribute and the behavior. So based on the attributes and behavior that defines the object. Okay, let's consider the example here. One example, I am taking the class as a student. Okay, what is the name of the class? It is a student. It is the identity, right? Now member variables. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ? ನೇಮ್, ರೋಲ್ ನಂಬರ್, ಮಾರ್ಕ್ 1, ಮಾರ್ಕ್ 2 and member function. So we have to calculate the total, average and display. Here the individual student can be object of the class object student 1, student 2. So ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಹೆಸರೇನು? ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ BC ಅಂತ ತಗೊಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸೊ every student in this class, 34 students are individual object. Every individual object you are having your name, your roll number, your individual marks, and based on that marks you are able to calculating the total of your marks, average of your marks, and we are displaying your marks. Got it? Yes, that is what exactly here suggested. Here the objects are std1, std2 means student 1 and student 2 are the objects of user defined type class. So for which class it is an object? User defined type class. Whatever the class you are defining, it is a user defined type. Okay, the object of the student class have its identity, attribute and behavior. Now we have said that object is consist of identity, attributes and behavior. For example, let us see student 1. So attribute name, I am treating it as a xxx and roll number is 123, marks 1, 95 and 85. So we want to calculate the total marks of mark 1 and mark 2. So then we are using the method or function total function. By using this total function, I can process the data, and afterwards I am using the another function average. After that I am processing the data on either the marks or the total function. Okay, and also display the class can be used by the object student1 to calculate the total and average of the marks obtained. Right. The member variables and member functions of the class are accessed through object. Whatever the member variables and member functions we can able to access through an object. So you are familiar in your C++, same thing we are accessing here. But in the case of here, as we know what is a class, right? Let us see. Class is a collection of object of similar type. What is a class? Class is a collection of object of similar type. Also, it is a user defined type that assists in representing solving complex real world problems. Class is a collection of objects and it is also a user defined type. By using this user defined type, we are going to be solving real world problem. Okay, so a class is a collection of member variables of different types combined with functions that operate on data. Now only we have seen this is a class, right? What is a class? A student class. Student class consists of a member variables and member functions. In the case of Java, these member variables are treated as data or field, and member functions are treated as methods. Okay, whatever the member function, it is treated as a methods. Now one words, you have to know what is the data or field. Data field means data member variables are member data and member functions are treated as a methods. Okay, yes. And next one is abstraction. Abstraction means we have to concentrate only the essential details of an object. Now I am taking the same example of your pen drive, right? So we know what is the object, what is the purpose of object, right? But it may consist of a one circuitry board, right? A small circuitry board, we don't need it. We are only concentrating on the function of this object, the essential details. What is the essential details of this pen drive? To copy the information from either PC or laptop or mobile, and it has to be stored. Got it? So this detail has to be shown. We need not to be bothered about whether the circuitry board is exist or not. Means we are only focusing on the essential details of this object, and we are not concentrating on the non-essential details. Got it? For example, here one more example is given. Let us see an example of a car. In a car, the accelerator pedal, steering wheel and brake pedal are some of the main details for driver. So to ride a car, for the driver, he should know what is the accelerator pedal, steering wheel and brake pedal. Right. He need not to be know the mechanism behind the brake. Right. So these essential details are shown and the non-essential details like the mechanism behind are not shown to the driver. So how it is functioning is not showing to the driver. So that is the abstraction. What do you mean by an abstraction? Abstraction means concentrating on essential details and not concentrating on non-essential details. So this abstraction is simply means looking for what you want. It is also called as looking for what you want. Okay, and next our OOPS concept is encapsulation. Let us see now the wrapping of data and function into a single unit to keep safe from external interface or misuse. Okay, so what do you mean by encapsulation? The wrapping of data and function into a single unit. As we know, if you see this pen drive, it consists of a circuitry board. It is consists of certain mechanism of a working. Then what we have done? We have wrapped this data and the function of this pen drive by using some plastic materials. Right? Why? To protect the board from an misuse. Okay? So in the same sense, whenever we are using the concept of Java, encapsulation is one of the mechanism. By using this, we are integrating, we are binding data and function into a single unit, and that single unit we are keeping safe from the external interface or misuse. Yes, it is a feature of hiding the complexity of data. As we know, why we have to protect this circuitry board with some of this material, right? So it is the hiding of complexity of data. Whatever the complexity of data is exist, we should be hide from the external misuse. Let us see, consider the example of a car. So we have seen the example of a car. We are explaining that to stop the car we just apply the brake and we don't need the mechanism of a braking system. So as we know, we have to concentrate on the essential data, like if I apply the brake, car has to be stopped, right? We do not want the mechanism behind the braking system, right? Whether it consists of drums or lanyards or some stopping materials. Okay, the mechanism, whatever the mechanism is exist behind the braking system is encapsulated. Then what we are doing, whatever the mechanism supported by that braking system, we are protecting it as wrapped. Okay, let us see one more example. You are having a fan at your home, right? So when you turn on the switch, it has to be rotated. So whenever it is rotating, we are concentrating on only if I turn on the switch, it has to rotate. We need not to be bothered whether it consists of bearings or any copper coil or anything else, right? If we open that box, then what happened? That whatever the mechanism behind that fan is improperly works, right? This feature hides the implementation details. So then encapsulation means whatever the mechanism or whatever the implementation details of an object we have to hide. Why we have to hide? To protect the data safe. Okay, so it is the feature of encapsulation, also called as data hiding. It is also called as data hiding. And next our concept is inheritance. Then what do you mean by inheritance? Reusability. Let us see what is reusability. Reusability is the basic technique behind inheritance. Now inheritance use ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ reusability technique na use ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. Let us see how. Once a class has been written, created and debugging. If you have developed one class, you have written and you have created and you have modified. Okay, it can be distributed to the other program for use in their own program. So whatever the program you have written, it can be distributed to the other programs for use in their own programs. This concept is called as reusability. For example, let us take uh, our mobile systems, right? Once, now we are having smartphone. What is the main purpose of this smartphone? To call and to watch the videos, and every features are supported by your smartphone, right? Earlier using of this smartphone, we are having bar phones, right? In that bar phones, we can able to call and we can able to text messages, and we are using a little bit usage of that bar phones. Before that, we are having black and white bar phones. Okay, so then what you have to supposed to understand, we have developed a black and white bar phone, and whatever the code we have written for the black uh, bar phones, we have modified the same code with a little bit of a thing by using the old code, and we have implemented. Means then what we are doing, if you want to develop a color phone, we have to use the code of old phone, right? If you modified the old code, you are generating a new one, means then it is called as a reusability. So now we are using the smartphone, then how we are accessing this smartphone? Based on that color bar phones, right? We have little bit modified, we have taken the same code and we have applied our implementation code, and we are making the usage of a old code. This is what exactly called as reusability. Okay, Java allow program to build hierarchy of a classes. The derivation of a class is used for building hierarchy. So here the derivation means whatever the feature exists in the old class, we are inheriting in a new class. Okay, the basic feature of class, here the basic feature of a class is treated as a parent class or base class, can be passed on to the derived class. The derived class are called child class or new class. Okay, whatever the base class or parent class or exist, we are making the reusable of a parent class in your new class, that is called as a child class. In practice, the inheritance principle reduces the amount of writing as derived class do not have been written again. So by using the concept of inheritance, then what we are doing, it reduces the amount of writing the code. Right. Let us see here one example. Consider the television class. It has a certain attributes such as the screen width, audio, video control, etc. The television class have various derived classes such as black and white color television, or color television and home theater television. Nowadays we are using the home theater. Behind this home theater we are using smart TVs, right? So whatever the smart TV you are using, it inherit the properties of home theater. Whatever the home theater you are using, it inherit the properties of color television. Whatever the color television you are using, it is inheriting the properties of black and white television. Okay, the derived class can inherit certain attributes and behavior from the base class. Please observe here. And likewise the same, and can include some additional functionality of it. So whatever we are developing a new concept means we are inheriting the old concept and we are applying our new idea to develop a new product. Got it? Yes. So that is what exactly called as an inheritance. Now we are moving to the last concept of object oriented system. Oops, concept, that is the polymorphism. In Java, polymorphism means the ability to take more than one form using operator or function in different ways. But here the concept of operators are not exist. Please make a note. In Java, there is no difficult concept like operator overloading. It consists of function overloading, that is called as method overloading. Okay, yes. So in Java, polymorphism means the ability to take more than one form using function in different ways. Okay, depending on what they are operating on is called polymorphism. As we know, function overloading. So what do you mean by function overloading? The function overloading means it consists of the name, same return type, same name of the function, but difference in parameter list, right? Same function name, same parameter list, but different in return type. This concept is polymorphism. Okay, then what do you mean by polymorphism? The ability to take more than one form. The ability to take more than one form by using the functions or method in a different ways. Let us see in general carbon. As we know what is a carbon, right? Carbon is considered as polymorphic as it is crystallized to form graphite as well as diamond. So if you are using the carbon, that carbon is acting as a graphite and as well as a diamond. Okay, so graphite in the sense it is used for our kitchen purpose. Older days we are using these charcoals, right? Charcoal. So the purpose of charcoal is used in as the graphite as well as a diamond. That is what exactly called as the carbon. Okay, here overloading is a kind of polymorphism. So here overloading is also considered as a polymorphism. Let us see here shape and draw. Okay, suppose if you want to build the shape and draw, if you want to build the circle, you have to take the draw method. If you want to draw the box, then you have to use the draw method. If you want to build triangle method, triangle object, then you have to use the draw method. Draw method of triangle, draw method of a box, draw method of circle. As we know, area of a circle is a pi r square, area of a box is length into breadth, area of a triangle is half into length into breadth. Right? Box is nothing but either square or rectangle. It maybe depends upon you. So whenever you are attending certain interviews, they will ask a question, explain your room in a Java. You can treat your room either in the square or rectangle. If you know, if you are taking it as a rectangle, then it is a length into breadth. If you are taking it as a square, then it is length into breadth into height. Okay, length into breadth, and if you treat it as in a box means length, height and width. Length into breadth into height it will comes. Okay, so till now what we have learned is not in the portion, but you should have to know what the exact OOPS concept is. Okay, it is an interview based questions. Now we are starting from your class fundamentals. Let us see what is a class. A class is a template that defines the form of object. As we know, a class is a user defined type and it is a collection of objects, right? Here it is a same meaning. A class is a template. Template means ready-made design, right? That defines the form of an object. Okay, it is a user defined type. By using that user defined type, you are defining the form of an objects, right? It specifies both data and the code that will operate on the data. In the class, it consists of both the data. As we have explained, data means data members and code means the methods. Both this code and methods will operate on the data. Whatever we are performing, whatever the operation we are performing, that will be affect on data. For example, let us see banking system. You are having account number. That account number is some integer type or float type or double type, right? Suppose you are having some operations: withdraw, next deposit. Let us see, if you deposit, to whom you are depositing? To your data only, your data member, right? If you are withdrawing, to whom it is operating? It is also your data, that is your account number, right? Got it? Then you are identifying the balance. These are the data and the code that both will be operate on the data only. Okay, yes. Java uses a class specification to construct object. Even if you want to use a class, then you have to use an object. So that is why Java is a truly object oriented programming language. Okay, objects are instance of a class. Here also we are suggesting objects are instance of a class, as we know what is an instance, right? Thus a class is essentially a set of plans that specify how to build an object. So as we know, it consists of a set of plans, then how to construct the object of that class. The methods and variables that are constitute or a class are called members of the class. Whatever the variables, that is the data, or whatever the methods or functions is constitute are called as members of the class. Data members and member functions are the part of your class. Okay. The data members are also referred as instance variable. Whatever the variable you are declared inside the class is treated as an instance variable, right? Now let us see the general form of a class. So let us see the general form of a class. When you define a class, you declare it exact form and nature. Whenever we are using the class concept, we have to declare it and in the exact form. You do it by specifying the instance variable and it contains the methods that operate on them. So in your class, it definitely consists of a data of class members and member functions. So data and methods. Okay, let us see. Although very simple classes might contain only methods or instance variables, most real world classes contains both. So your class consists of data and methods. A class is created by the keyword class. If you want to create the class, then we have to supposed to be use the keyword class. Let us see the syntax of a class. Here it has given class name. Class is a keyword, class is name is the name of the class. For example, class is a keyword, student is the name of the class, identifier of the class, right? Afterwards, you are declaring the variable type variable 1, type variable 2 and so on, type variable n. Int roll number, string name, right? Int marks 1, marks 2, marks 3, float average. So likewise we can declare the variables. Here the declaration of methods, as we know what we have to do, right? We have to compute your data, correct? So we have to calculate the total and average. So for that I am defining float average of whatever the parameter we have declared, we have to supply here and we have to process. Okay, so this is the method declaration. How to declare the method? Type method 1 parameters. So whatever the values or whatever the variables we are using inside the functions is treated as a parameter, right? So likewise, you can comprises of your class. It consists of data members and member functions. So in the pure Java, we have to declare it as in a data and methods. It should not be treated like as in a data members and member functions. In Java, it is called as data and methods. Okay. So if you are opening the class means it must be closed. If you are opening the method means it must be closed. Okay. So you have to be note. Now we will see the how to define a class. Right. A class is a user defined data type with a template that serves to define its property. If you get confused these definitions, whatever the definition you know you have to write. Okay. So here we have learned you can write these definitions also. A class is a collection of objects of similar type. Classes are user defined types that is just representing, and it is a collection of so and so, right? You can also write this. Here it is a suggesting as a class is a user defined type with a template that serves to define its property. Once the class has been defined, we can create variables of that type using declaration that are similar to the basic type of declaration. So once you have constructed the class, then compulsory what we have to define? We have to define the variables, right? So that is we have to do that. Declaration of a variables we have to do. In Java, these variables are termed as instance classes. Whatever the variable you are declared inside the class is treated as instance variables, which are the actual objects. Okay. So here the instance classes also treated as an object, but it is not a purely object. We have to define. Let us see how to define the class definition. What is the exact form of your class definition? Class definition consists of the keyword class, the name of the class, whatever the thing is present here in the square bracket is an optional. Here extends, if you are using the concept of extends means you are using the inheritance concept. What is the purpose of extends keyword? To inherit the base class. Here base class is treated as in a superclass name. Okay, so this is an optional. This is an optional. Okay, class name, whatever the square bracket is an optional, but we are using this concept. Extends means we are inheriting the base class. That base class is a superclass name. And afterwards compulsory it consists of open curly brace and closing curly brace, and within that open curly brace and closing curly brace we are having variable declaration like this and method like variable declaration like this. Okay, yes, and this concept we have specified here, and every statements in a class should be terminated with a semicolon. Okay, now let us see adding variables. So how to add the variables? Data is encapsulated in a class by placing data field inside the body of the class definition. So if you want to add the data, then you have to supposed to be place the data field. The data field means variables. Okay, so where to specify the variables? Inside the class. These variables are called as instance variables. Now onwards we know whatever the variables we are defining inside the class is called as instance variables, because they are created whenever an object of the class is instantiated. So please make a note this point. Okay, what is the point? The variables are called instance variables. Why it is called as instance variables? Because they are created. Okay, they are created whenever an object of the class is instantiated. So these variable will be created whenever you are creating the object of this class. Okay, but in the case of C and C++, if you declare this variable in your case of C++, it is automatically created, right? But even if you have declared the variables, it doesn't creates in the Java. When it will be created? Whenever you are creating the object of this class. Whenever the object you are creating for this class, at that time this variable will be created. Till that the variable is not created. Whatever the declaration you have done, it has not been created. Okay, please observe here. The class rectangle contains two integer type instance variables. These are the instance variables. These variables are only declared and therefore no storage space has been created. You have declared only, but it doesn't occupy any memory. Okay, instance variables are also known as member variables. These instance variables are also treated as member variables. So likewise you can add the variables to a class. Now we will see how to add the methods. Methods are necessary for manipulating the data contained in the class. So if you are using the method means we have to do some computations. Definitely we have to do some computations. So that is why we are using manipulation of the data. If you are using the method means we are manipulating this data, right? Length width means we have to manipulate. Got it? Methods declared inside of the body of the class but immediately after the declaration of instance variable. So where you are declaring the methods, you are declaring the methods after the variable declarations. After the variable declarations you are declaring the methods, or wherever necessary you are feeling you are creating the methods. Okay, let us see the general form of a method declaration. Here we know type, it is a data type. It may be int, float, char, double. Method name, it is the name given by the user. It may be add, sub, or get data, put data, and so on. And parameter list, it is a consist of a set of list, either int or float or char or double or boolean or string. And here it consists of method body. Method body means whatever the computation you have to done, right? Here whatever we have exactly specified, here using the type, here the type specifies the value the method would return. Okay, and here the type is the same, and the parameter list is specified within the parentheses, and the method name consists of a valid identifier, that is a valid method name, and so on. For this, to understand this class and class declaration, let us see here. Here class is a keyword, rectangle is the name of the class, afterwards you have declared the variable int length comma width. If you are using the rectangle means it gives an idea you are computing the area of rectangle. Then what is the purpose, what is the area of a rectangle? Length into width, right? So here I am using void is avoiding the return value. Get data, it is the name of the data, it is the name of the method. Here we are taking the two parameters. So why we are taking the two parameters? Because we have declared the two instance variable, right? We have to suppose to supply these two instance variable to these parameters, or we have to assign the value of these parameters to this instance variable, right? So that is what exactly we have done in the get data method. In the length variable we are assigning the parameter x, in the width we are assigning the value of y, right? Afterwards we are taking one more method, the one more method name data type is int and rect area. So integer is integer data type, rect area means the name of the method, the name of the function. If you are taking the int means it will return a value, this function or this method will return a value to the caller, right? Let us see int area is equal to length into width. So we came to know we are creating one more variable, that is int area inside the method. Please observe here, inside the method we are declared the variable, this is the local variable, right? By using this local variable you can access within this only. And here you have taken the return type as an int. Whoever calling this rect area, the value area will be written, right? Length into width will be processed and it will be stored in the area, and whoever calling this rect area, the value of area will be written. So this has been explained here, please go through it. Okay, and one more example here it is there. Here class is a keyword, access is the name of the class. Here we have declared the int x variable. Here void is the return type. Our method one, name of the method or name of the function. Here we have declared int y, and x is equal to 10. Please observe here, it is a instance variable, and whatever the variable we are using inside the method one is y is the local variable. Okay, in the x we are storing the 10, in the y we are storing the x, that is y will be assigned as an x. And we are taking one more method, void method 2 int z. So here we are accessing x is equal to 5. So it is possible because x is a class variable or instance variable, its scope, as we know what is the scope of the variable we have learned, right? And suppose z is the local variable of this method, right? So you can access. Suppose if you want to access y, then it is illegal. Why? Because why is the scope is within the method 1 only. You can't access outside of the method 1, right? That is why if you try to assign y is equal to 1, it become an illegal and it will give compulsory an error. Got it? Yes. Now let us see creation of object. Till now what we have learned? Class. What is a class? What is an object? How to declare the variables inside the class, and how to declare the functions in a class. Functions are nothing but methods, right? Now we will see how to creation of an object. An object in Java is a block of memory. Okay, what is an object? An object in Java is a block of memory that contains space to store all the instance variables. If you are using the object means, creation of an object means you are creating the memory of entire your program. Please make a note. Okay, that is why here it is treated as a block of memory that contains a space to store all the instance variable. Whatever the instance variable you are accessing in your program, whenever you are creating the object, at that time it will allocate the memory. Okay, creating an object is referred as instantiating an object. If you are creating an object of a class means it is called as instantiating of an object. Okay, if you want to create an object, compulsory we have to use new operator. The new is a keyword. By using that keyword, it is an operator. The purpose of new operator is to create an object of a specified class and return a reference to that object. Okay, so if you are using the new keyword means it is an operator. By using that new operator, you are creating an object of a specified class and it returns a reference to that object. For example, we have defined here it is in a class rectangle. Now I want to create the object of this class. To create the object of this class, please observe here rectangle rect1. Now what I have done, I have declared the object. I have not created. Please observe here. Okay, rectangle is the name of the class. For that class you have declared the object. In the next line what you are doing, rect1 is equal to new rectangle. Rect1 is equal to new rectangle. Now you are creating this object, this variable. So that is why object is an instance of a class. Objects are instance means variables. To class, right, objects are instance of a class. Okay, so instance means variable. So this is a variable of this class, means you are creating an object of this class. Then how you are saying you are created? By using the new operator. Rect1 is equal to new rectangle means you are creating rect1 object of this class. So it is called as also instantiating. So here a picture represent, ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಡಯಾಗ್ರಾಮ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿ rect1 ಅನ್ನುವ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಬೀನ್ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ಯಾವಾಗ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರೋ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಸ್ ಅನ್ ರೆಕ್ಟಾಂಗಲ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್. ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಿನ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ರೆಕ್ಟಾಂಗಲ್ ಆಗಿ ರೆಫರ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಸ್ ಉಂಟೋ ಆ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ನ ನಾವು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೆಲ್ಲ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ ಉಂಟೋ ಆ ಮೆಥಡ್ಸ್ನ ನಾವು ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡಿಫೈನ್ಡ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಓಕೆ, ಹಿಯರ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡಿಫೈನ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಬೋತ್ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಫೈನ್ಡ್ ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ ದ one line. Rectangle rect1 is equal to new rectangle. What does it mean? You are instantiating the object. You are creating the object. This statement is called as instantiating. Okay, this statement is called as declaration. This is a instantiation. So the two statement will be combined within a one single statement. Rectangle is the name of the class, rect1 is the name of the object, name of the object of this class, and new operator is used to create the memory of this class. Okay, yes, each object has its own copy of instance of a class variables, instance variable of its class. So if you have created multiple object means, then what happens, multiple object as having multiple copies of instance of a class. Okay, yes, for example let us see, for the same class we have created two objects. Yes, rectangle r1 is equal to new rectangle. Please observe here we have created here rectangle r2 is equal to r1. So we have created two objects. These two objects identify the class. Please observe r2 is also pointing r1, R1 rectangle object only. R1 we have created, this is the object we have created for the class rectangle, and R1 is assigned to the R2. R2 is another object. This is also here R2, it is actually R2 is also referring the same class. So likewise you can assign one class object to the another class object, one class object to the another class object. Now the next concept is new operator. In the last example only we came to know the purpose of new operator is to create the object, right? The new operator creates an object of the specified class and returns to the reference to that object. So what is the purpose of new operator? Creation of an object of a specified class and return the reference of to that object. Okay, so ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ನ್ಯೂ ಆಪರೇಟರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನ್ಯೂ ಆಪರೇಟರ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಯಾವ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗೆ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೋ ಆ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗೆ ಆ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ರೆಫರ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ದೆನ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಸಿಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್? ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಸಿಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ವೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಟು ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ನೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಆರ್ಗ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್. ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ is equal to new is the operator, class name of argument list, maybe it consists of sometimes argument list. Here the example we are taking the last example only, rectangle rect1, rect1 is equal to new rectangle. So here we have declared, we have instantiated, we can combine these two statement by using rectangle rect1 is equal to new rectangle. So it will be do the same operation, that is creation of your object. Hope you understand this concept. Till now we have learned the basic OOPS concept and defining of a class. This is very important. Adding of variables, adding of methods and creation of an object. Okay, we will meet in the next class.